This is a really difficult question.
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a great question.
That's a really good question.
I love this question, and I think this really is going to help me kind of meditate and grow on it.
Want to hear the answers? Check out Season 2 of New Media Lab with Robert Southgate. New episodes every Tuesday. Available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and wherever you subscribe to your favorite podcasts. Welcome back to the New Media Lab. This is the Creators Lab. I have with me Kevin Long from The Kevin Long Show, and I am your host, Rob Southgate. We are in week 3 of this experiment. We'll call it that. Sound good to you, Kevin?
Sounds great.
All right, so let's recap just a little bit. I actually, we didn't do it for a couple of weeks, and there's a reason. There's a couple of reasons. One is some craziness on our end. We got asked to do a couple of podcast marathons that are coming up in like 4 weeks. So,
oh wow, that's cool.
I am underwater trying to figure that out. But number 2, after that last conversation we had, I gave you some homework, and I wanted to give it time to do something. One thing that podcasters, I thought about this after we did that. One thing that podcasters tend to think is, I am going to make one tweet and I am going to see an effect. Not true. It takes time. Everything takes time. You don't just build an audience overnight, although there are times that you'll see a spike like we did after week 1. We are going to go back and I'm going to talk to you about where the numbers are now because they are different again. But before we do that, I want to talk about that homework we did. Did you do that social media stuff that I was talking about?
I noticed that the first time right after you gave it, I was really good at doing five posts throughout the day for, hey, here's the show, or hey, here's this thing. But the last 2 shows that have come out, I wasn't as diligent in posting 5 separate posts.
And did you do those all in one day?
I did do. The first time it was 5 in one day, and then the last 2 shows it was just, hey, here's my show, and totally forgot about it.
Okay. And did you do the in case you missed it post?
I did do those.
Okay. And did you have any interaction from any of this?
I had one, the first Magic Monday that we did after we talked, I had one guy on Twitter get back to me and say, hey, this is what I do in my game.
Oh, cool. All right. Very cool. So there was a little bit of engagement there. Now, here's the thing, Kevin. Like I said, it takes a while for this stuff to build up.
Yeah.
And engagement is a real tough one. It takes a while for that to kick in. So you have to be diligent. You have to keep at it. Now, something that I did, and one interaction is good, I got to tell you. Something that I did in the interim here between these shows is I created a social media calendar for people. I used just a basic one, and then I shared the one that I was using for New Media Lab. 2 points on that. Number 1, I already have not used my social media calendar that I created. So if you fail at it, if you don't do it, don't call it a fail. Just say, you know what, I'll start it now. Or maybe it's too much at this point. But just know that that is a best practice. For me, I literally just couldn't pull the time together to set up a month's worth of posts. When I do it, I will actually create that so that literally 25 out of the 30 days are done in one day, ready to push out there. Okay? So I just wanted to let people know that, hey, even though I'm talking about it, trust me, I am not perfect in any way. And I understand it takes time. I want you to understand that too. Now, did you look at that social media calendar thing that I shared?
I looked at it, and I need to do it.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing you could do, Kevin, is take what we did with the 5 posts, try to make that a habit, okay? And try to make the in case you missed it a habit. And then look at that calendar and say, okay, can I get it so I'm doing something each day? Doesn't have to fit the calendar, just something. Maybe look at the calendar and say, oh, today I might try this. Great. So it's not like you have to look at it and say, oh, Rob said we should do an Instagram post on Wednesday, and then we should do one in case you missed on Thursday, and then we should do this on Friday. Maybe just if you can't think of something to post, look at the calendar. What does it say for today? And you go, oh, I could throw a quote up there. Boom, done.
Okay.
You have one of the easiest things in the world. You could literally, as long as you have your hashtags that we talked about locked and loaded, you could literally share a piece of D&D artwork. You could share pictures of dice. I mean, there are people that all they want to see are the different types of dice out there. You could just search the internet, find that, set up some pictures each day. Boom, you've got interaction. You've got something. Or take a quote, type in Gary Gygax's quotes and put those up, It's really simple stuff. It's nothing that you have to use a lot of brain power for, and it should take you about 30 seconds out of your whole day.
Okay.
So let's talk about your numbers and what's happened. On that last one, we were celebrating because we went over 100, right?
Right.
In one day. You have gone right back to where you were.
Okay.
Do not be disappointed with that. I think the reason that we jumped up to 100 is because of what I did on the back end. I'm not taking credit for this. I'm telling you, this is a reality. On the back end, I submitted you to various platforms. When you do that, it starts pinging around and it showed up as downloads on here. So now we have the show in more places for people to find it. Now it's all about building that awareness, and it will start to really grow. Before you think that I'm going like, yeah, it's because of what I did. If you look at some of my shows, take this show, for example, I did the same thing. I added this to various platforms that it wasn't on. And I had a day where the number spiked. And I went, oh, cool. And then I started thinking about it. It was like, yeah, it's pinging around. That's why that's happening.
Right.
So now we've set the table. All of our stuff is right. Let's get in there and promote it to try to draw attention.
Okay.
Now, you said you have a question. What's your question?
I do. On the show with, I want to say, Andrea from The Creative Imposter.
Yep.
She says, one original post on LinkedIn every day.
Yeah. So what she's doing is she does a video every single day, and they're about a minute long. And it is her having connection on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a phenomenal platform when you understand how to use it. I do not use it properly yet. When I wrote the blog post about the social media calendar, I put it up on there, and it got a lot of response. If you look at our website and you look at the statistics, a lot of traffic came from that LinkedIn post.
Oh, that's cool.
Andrea is doing that every day. And I believe she's making a video every day. I might be wrong. She might be doing a blog post or posting a show. She might be using that same type of strategy that we were talking about of have something unique each day. But I know for a while there, she was doing a short video every day, and it would be something about training or whatever. In your case, you could do the same thing. But once again, Kevin, that's a lot of content when you're still trying to get your feet stable on this whole, how do I tweet every day? How do I do Facebook every day?
Right. And my concern is I was trained that LinkedIn is a professional website. So like my niche would be even nichier on LinkedIn.
Sure. But what you're doing is you're not, how do I say this? On LinkedIn, you are promoting your business, which is this show.
Okay.
So you're saying, I have a new episode. Here's my new episode. We talk about this. And then maybe on the next day, post a question very specific to the industry or to people that are very involved in it.
Okay.
Create content right for the platform. That's something that I'm a stickler about. And that's why I haven't really gripped what I do on LinkedIn yet, because I want to make sure the content I'm creating there is proper.
Right.
LinkedIn is about business, but that doesn't mean you can't post your shows. I've seen people post, they're a fan of The Flash. They post their show about The Flash, but then the next day they're posting something about the business part of it.
Okay.
They're sharing something about social media promotion. They're sharing something about content marketing. They're sharing something about new media. And then they post their show. So basically what they're doing by doing all those professional posts is they're earning the right to share their show.
Gotcha.
Okay. And like with this show, when we do these, you should absolutely be posting these to LinkedIn because this is the business side of things. Share it from your site. Don't just like when I post it, share your own.
Okay.
Hey, I guested on this show and we talked about this. Hashtag, 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 hashtag. Guess what? You're going to start attracting attention. Hey, you want to know what show we were talking about? Here's the Kevin Long Show. Here's a post. Boom. You've earned the right then for people to listen. All right?
Cool.
I hope that made sense. And, you could always reach out to Andrea. It's Andrea Klunder.
Mm-hmm.
She is wonderful. She will answer questions. You can also reach out to basically anybody you've heard on New Media Lab. I know that Dave Jackson, he's right on it. You write to him, boom, he'll write right back to you. Brent Hand, right back to you. They're all great people and they're all accessible. That's why I put their contact information in the show notes. These are all people that reached out when I reached to them, like immediately, whether I knew them or not. And they were like, yeah, I want to be a part of it. And they were super gracious and awesome with the information. And they all said, hey, when you share it with your fans, make sure they know they can reach out to us.
That's awesome.
Okay. So I'm gonna go niche-y here. We talked about the social media calendar stuff. I'm going to actually do a separate short episode about that because people are asking me how that works. I'm going to do one separate from this, separate from New Media Lab, where I literally just talk about the blog post and how you do it. Okay?
Sounds
so
great.
We're not going to get into that in particular, but it will probably bring up questions for you at another time.
Right.
What I want to talk to you is about something really specific that is overlooked a lot. And that is show artwork. Now, I look at your show, and if you go back, you can't really do this necessarily, but if you were to cycle through your posts, you would see that there are a handful of shows where I made artwork for them.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, it's just your show logo. Now, the show logo is fine, but it's not fresh for people.
Right.
When people see a new episode post, they're seeing the same image every time. Now, some people say to me, yeah, but iTunes, it doesn't show the image. Actually, it does. There are places on iTunes where it does show the show image.
Yeah, I see it change all the time on some of the shows that I listen to.
And then take platforms like Stitcher. It doesn't really do it there, but in car mode, I think it might. I know Spotify shows the different ones. I know that like Spreaker, I believe, does, and Blueberry does, like all these different platforms that you should have your show on. A lot of them, when you click on it, it does show the artwork that you've put in. Okay. Also, we use Libsyn and you use Libsyn. When you use Libsyn, it creates a website. So we have our main website. And what I'm doing now is I used to create a different page for each show that I had to keep populating, and it gets to be too much with 100 shows. So now what I'm doing is I've got the main frame of that. I just make minor adjustments here and there, and then when you click on listen to past episodes, it goes to this really beautiful Libsyn page that has all the episodes laid out. If you don't do original artwork, they all look like the same episode. You have to read all this text to figure out what's going on. Okay. I encourage you to make artwork. I encourage you, Kevin, and everyone listening to make something. And here's what you need to do. You need to make it so it's 1400 by 1400 pixels. I usually do it at 300 DPI, but it can be like 125. You just want to have something that looks good. When I say make something original, it can be, this is podcasting. This is a little different than if I'm printing something in a magazine. So in your case, Kevin, you could take every episode, take a different image from Dungeons and Dragons, okay? And just crop it down to 1400 by 1400 and then put like episode 50 : Spencer in big letters on it, okay?
Okay. And
that way, any fan that looks at it goes clearly like, oh, it's about D&D, and look, this is episode 50.
Gotcha.
Okay? That is a really effective way to do it. I get bogged down in creating more elaborate stuff where I put talk bubbles and I do all this stuff, and then I end up dropping off of it at some point because I was doing 100 shows. But if everybody, when they sent me their episode, sent me a piece of artwork, it would go right in there. Number 2 on that, so everyone understands, the dimensions you want to use, 1400 by 1400 pixels and 200 to 300 DPI is best, okay? There is a second place on Libsyn when you put your artwork in, where you can put in a widescreen image. This is for YouTube. Okay. So if you're going to do the YouTube image, you want to make it 1920 by 1080. That's the widescreen image that it says here.
Okay.
I do a little different, but that is a perfectly acceptable size. I'll actually post something when I do this. I'll do a an image sizing chart that I'll share in my next blog post. And that way people can see, like, what are the dimensions? I actually have them. The reason I don't know it off the top of my head is I actually have it preset in Pixelmator, which is what I use for this. Some people use, Photoshop. There are various other programs. Canva, I think, is something people use. I use Pixelmator. And I have one set at 1400 by 1400, and I have the other one set at 1920 by 1080, or whatever it is I'm using at this point for YouTube. And those are the two sizes I use. And actually, the reason you want to do that is if it pushes to YouTube, or if it's a service that uses the widescreen image, if you just use the 14 by 14, it's going to put it in the middle and have like just junk at the sides, nothing at the sides. If you make two images, one that's the 1400, and then you make one that is something other than just nothing at the sides. So you've got the 1400 by 1400 in the middle, and then maybe along the sides, make a black bar and put your social media stuff or something.
Okay.
If you look at some of our shows, if you go to our YouTube channel for Southgate Media Group and you look at the Biters podcast, I make an original YouTube piece for every single one. And all I do is I take my 1400 image and I plug it into a framework that I've already built. So I don't have to do this every time. It's already there. I just type in the new show name and drop the artwork in. Boom. Done. Super easy. But you do want to do this because, once again, if you go to the website from your server, it's not going to look great if you don't have different images. And when you share it on social media, if it's always the same image, people go blind to it. If you have the new episode and then you take the image artwork from this episode and you say, hey, we're doing Bag of Holding, and it's got an image of Bag of Holding, more people are going to go, oh, look, cool. People that are into that are going to go like, oh, cool. Or people that aren't are going to go, oh, I wonder what this is. Whereas if it's always the Kevin Long Show image,
right,
it's going to get looked over.
Okay.
So anyone that wants to see this page, and actually I have not done the work on your page. So anyone that wants to see it before I do the work on it can go to kevinlongshow.libsyn, LIBSYN.com. That is before I've done the update on it. And if you want to see how it's done the way I think it should be done, and what's going to happen to Kevin's show, go to newmedialab.libsyn.com. And you can see that I've got artwork for everything. And yes, it doesn't change drastically. I'm just changing some of the text. On some of our shows, I make graphics. Some of them I don't, but it has something different each time. And this is a really slick, nice looking page that Libsyn has put up. And it's got all the social media links on it too. So there you go. And pay attention because, Kevin, your page will change over the course of the next week.
Perfect.
Oh, one more thing about that. You can send me artwork for past episodes too.
Okay.
So if you want to go through and do that, I'll be happy to put them all in there. So one more thing before we go, Kevin. One thing I noticed, and I don't know what this is, so I'm going to have to look into this, but every page I just looked at, it came up with a consistency error. The categories have changed.
Interesting.
This must be something that iTunes is doing. I'm not sure, but I see that on yours, all three category areas are different. New Media Lab, it changed. It says I have to choose a different one. It might be that it has to be more specific, but just be aware, if you use Libsyn, go in where you set your destinations and check for consistency errors. It pops up in red. You can't miss it. And I think you just have to change your categories to something more concise.
Okay.
So, Kevin, I guess you don't have to do that, but listeners,
Right.
you have to. All right. Any other questions, Kevin?
Not this week.
Excellent. Well, we will come back next week and follow up on this. I promise you we're going to be back on track with all of it. And we will maybe do a bonus episode where we talk about some of these podcast marathon things we have going on, because it is quite an interesting process. I might actually make a side show just talking about that, because my gosh, there's a lot involved, and a lot of people have no clue what's involved in trying to put up a live show. So maybe we'll do some of that too. All right, Kevin. Well, why don't you give your social media and we're out.
So you can find us on Facebook by searching The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Twitter. We've got a new Twitter just for the show at Kevin Long SH1, or you can email us at thekevinlongshow@gmail.com.
Wonderful. And I'll be back this Thursday with an all-new New Media Lab featuring Scott Philbrook from Astonishing Legends. This is one you do not want to miss. I know I say that every time, but it's a really, really fantastic interview. And once again, if you want to support this show, go to Patreon. We've got one patron right now, the Gaming Outsider, kicked in, and they're really happy with everything. I need some patrons on there. We got to keep this thing going, and there are costs involved. So that is one way to keep this thing alive. Just go to Patreon/New Media Lab and become a patron and get the answer to how do you monetize your podcast from each of these amazing, amazing people. That's it. Until next time, keep creating.